Bloggers, pow!
Beyond belief, fact or fiction, we live in a world where the real and the unreal live side by side, where substance is disguised as illusion and the only explanations are unexplainable. Can you separate truth from fantasy? To do so, you must break through the web of your experience and open your mind to things beyond belief.
Is the truth always easy to see?
Video games are very popular. People devote many hours to get the best score. Did you know there are games hidden within games? Here are for stories where there are cheat codes that unlock something hidden. Can you tell truth from fiction? We will reveal the answers at the end of our show. But remember, these could be games we are playing with you. Ever since games were loaded from tape, there have been ways of making the time pass more quickly. From infamous Commodore 60 for loading music from Ocean and US Gold, to games that you can play while the main program loads. Namco patented playing games during loading times back in the PlayStation, but was there a full game hidden beyond belief?
Right, so this is Starblade, an arcade game from Namco. It essentially is a rail shooter, and this was a really big thing in the arcades. It was kind of big cabinet with a great big curved screen, at least by 1993 standards or 1992, whenever it was released, and it looked fantastic. However, there wasn't really much of a gameplay. It boiled down to being a not quite as interesting version of Atari's Star Wars coin-op. But my god, it looked really nice. Now this is the PlayStation version I'm playing with the enhanced graphics rather than flat polygon shading. But even in its original form at the time, it looks stunning. Now playing it with a PlayStation digital controller isn't quite right. You had one of these great big floaty yoke joysticks in the arcades. It probably worked really well on an analog stick, but this was released in the early days of the PlayStation before the analog controller was even a thing. I'm doing better than I normally do. I've done really badly by now, but maybe the PlayStation version is easier. Whoa, what's going on down there? There's been mines of waste all these ships. Whoa, those things are... Well, that's not, but the ship just there was a... well, obviously wanted to be a Star Destroyer when it grew up. No special weapons, no extra controls, literally just a crosshair and a shoot button, which I've just found out you can hold down, so that's good. Oh, Namco is just coming into their own on the PlayStation here. Obviously, Ridge Racer was a release game on the PlayStation, and Tekken wasn't long afterwards. And of course, Tekken went on to spawn many Tekken games over a period of years. And did you know that in Tekken 5, it's well known that Starblade is the loading game for Tekken 5. But if you play enough Tekken 5 and unlock more stuff from this and the other, you can actually play the full version of the original Starblade coin-op on your PlayStation 2 via Tekken. Interesting.
Is this story from Namco real, or is it Tekken the piss?
We'll tell you whether this story is true or false at the end of our show.
Budget games have always been a way for budding programmers to get their work in front of a larger audience. Sometimes a larger company may take note, as this story shows.
Right, this is Spore, and this is very simple but very, very fun. The idea is each screen you have a number of spores to destroy, and those things just follow you around relentlessly like this, and also barrels to collect, and that's the sort of turquoisey things over there. Anyway, so the red ones are generators, the lasers can be turned off, and you destroy them by holding down fire and pushing in a direction. You cannot run and gun, so it's about positioning and laying down fire to stop yourself getting well spored. And this has hundreds of levels. In fact, when you start the game, it has like 2 level sets, either the original levels or the or an extra set, and I believe there's a construction kit as well, maybe. But it's all about damage limitation. Right, let's get up there. Ah, crap. Get rid of these generators. There we go, some barrels to collect. And it's just about making sure how long you can survive to clear out each screen without taking a lot of damage. Now, this game isn't well known these days. It's a budget game for the Commodore 64 and a pretty obscure one at that, but it's well worth your time. However, in the early 2000s, I'm going to say, well, maybe it's towards the end of the 2000s, my dates are all mixed up, Will Wright of SimCity fame released a game called Spore. And it was like this procedurally generated evolution something, I don't know, I never played it, but it was really hyped and suffered from EA's always online DRM as well at some point. I don't know if that got fixed. That black thing there is health. Oh Christ. Anyway, as I was saying, so Will Wright released this game called Spore, but obviously there was already a game called Spore. And Will Wright investigated, but yeah, through EA's lawyers and that meant they could use the name of Spore without little or no bother. But Will Wright was intrigued and had a go on this and thought it was pretty good. So approached whoever was holding the rights to it at the time, because this was again Mastertronic via its Bullfrog label. I'm not sure where the rights held, but whatever happened is Will Wright managed to get permission to actually get a copy of this on said version game with the same name by his studio, which is really cool when you think about it, because this is good and more people should play it. And to open up to a whole new audience was fantastic.
Was Will Wright a secret fan, or are we just a spore of lies?
We'll tell you whether this story is true or false at the end of our show.
Any games programmer is proud of their hard work and will want it to live beyond its years. Maybe a budget game could slip into a licensed full release. Maybe.
Right, this is Pod, Proof of Destruction. God bloody hell. A year ago, 2 years ago, Roast into Spectrum approached me and asked if I wouldn't mind playing at this and telling him what I think for his channel, which I did, and he was surprised I'd actually heard of it. I used to play this a lot on the Commodore 64 with its weird ass trippy background. I will say the Commodore 64 version is more playable than the Spectrum version Rosie had me play. I just do remember enjoying it quite a bit, even though it is sort of very basic by today's standards. We finished another level. Fantastic. As you shoot things on the grid, it sort of breaks. And you can't go over the breaks like that until they repair. Which is sort of cool. It was pretty good for a budget game, and as Mastertronic released it on their oh, what label was it on? I can't remember now. Oh well. Mastertronic Plus or something? I can't remember. Very nice. Anyway, this was programmed by Sean Southern, I believe, who did previously done things like Trailblazer and things like that, but more known now for, well, at least in the retro community, for the Lotus games on the Amiga. Oh, bloody hell. All three of them. Which brings me along nicely to the Mega Drive version of Lotus Rex, where if you put a certain code into the, I think it's the player name entry, you will unlock a version of POD for the Mega Drive. Quite handy to know, isn't it?
Is this story a winning run, or did we keep you in the pits?
We'll tell you whether this story is true or false at the end of our show.
A classic Super Nintendo game forgotten by most, can this two-dimensional game possibly survive as a hidden game in a new three-dimensional world?
Right, this is Phalanx from Kemco on the Super Nintendo. It's one of those that also ran shoot 'em ups. I mean, it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. I did cover it previously on the Game Boy Advance of all things. It was released on that at one point. And I always thought it was fine. It's not the most exciting shoot 'em up on the planet. I seem to remember the levels go on for quite a long time. Oh, you've got weapon selects as well. I've forgotten about that. So you can go with the lasers because they fry things like that hamster in your microwave. Oh dear, things are getting some serious now. Caution! It's a bit late for that. We're already being attacked. Does this mean there's a boss coming? Yes, it does. There it is. Not particularly big boss, but a boss nonetheless. With a beam weapon, maybe? I don't know. I was probably safe with the lasers, giving me more fire cover, I think. It's one of those bosses that you don't actually see where your hit is hitting. Oh, it's flown off! Oh! I guess I'll be coming back to that soon. Fair enough. Now, interesting fact about Phalanx, obviously other than the Game Boy Advance version I mentioned earlier, on the PlayStation there's a game called Zero Divide, a mech fighting game, which I believe I've covered as well at some point in the past. But with Zero Divide, if you do a certain button combination on the second pad on the title screen, I believe, it unlocks a version of Phalanx called Tiny Phalanx. As a full game unlockable, so I understand.
Is this true, or are we just pressing your buttons?
Next, you'll find out which of our stories are fact and which are fiction when Beyond Belief returns.
Now let's look back at tonight's stories and find out which ones are inspired by actual events and which ones are totally false.
What about the Namco classic hidden in plain sight?
But if you play enough Tekken 5 and unlock more stuff from this and the other, you can actually play the full version of the original Starblade coin-op on your PlayStation 2 via Tekken.
You're right. It's fact.
How about Spore within Spore?
Whatever happened is Will White managed to allow, or sort of managed to get permission to actually get a copy of this version game with the same name by his studio.
It's a made-up tale. So about the Lotus hiding pod.
Which brings me along nicely to the Mega Drive version of Lotus Rex, where if you put a certain code into the, I think it's the player name entry, you will unlock a version of Pod for the Mega Drive.
It happened. So what of the story of Phalanx and Zero Divide?
But with Zero Divide, if you do a certain button combination on the second pad on the title screen, I believe, it unlocks a version of Phalanx called Tiny Phalanx.
You're right again.
Once again, we've tried to demonstrate that truth and falsehood live side by side. Were you able to separate fact from fiction tonight? Or did you find our conclusions simply beyond belief? I'm Jonathan Frakes.
Join us next week for more Beyond Belief,
Helicopter.
Fact or Fiction.
Helicopter. We created it. It's totally made up. No way. Not this time. It's a total fabrication. It's fiction. We made it up. Pure fiction. It's fiction. We made this one up. Not this time. It's a made-up tale. No, not this time. It never happened.
Here, subscribe or naff off!